Hello, everybody. Now we're going to get rolling here. James Ulness, Dr. Ulness, long-term professor of psychology at Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota, has integrated the best of mainstream psychology with Eastern and Western philosophy, or spirituality, I mean. Depth psychology, transpersonal psychology, and psychosynthesis, to name only a few, have been combined with the insights in the work of Rudolf Steiner to give Dr. Ulness his unique approach to the study of human nature. Here is Dr. Ulness.
It's so good to see you. I miss having in-person talks, even up in Fargo Moorhead, where where we got started with the Circle of Friends. We haven't been having in-person meetings yet. I hope that will start this summer. So I was really glad to hear that you have started and are doing both in-person and Zoom. Because there's an upside to the Zoom. It really is. A lot of people who just couldn't make it can stay in their home or wherever, in their vehicle or in their office, and catch it on Zoom. So hybrid, I suppose, will be with us for a while.
Forever.
Forever. Maybe so. Anyway, it's so good for me to drive across Minnesota. I did that every weekend for 3 years when we had the Whitson Institute. I haven't now for the last several years because of COVID, but it's just such a beautiful state. I really enjoy all the variety of green that I don't see in Arizona. We have rocks for our yard. Anyway, I'd like to have you use your attention to focus your consciousness in various places where you want it to go. In other words, you are an agent. You're not any longer, probably haven't been the last couple lifetimes. It just a pawn operated by spiritual beings. You are a free agent, and that means that you can make choices and changes, and you can steer your vehicle. This physical body is your vehicle, and let's practice a little bit of paying attention now to various places, and then see that your consciousness actually goes there. And in some of the places, at least, if not all, you will feel a kind of a tingling, sort of like a tickle, but not quite as intense. But don't feel bad if that isn't happening to you. We're not going to say, well, maybe better luck next time, next lifetime. So relax. Focus your attention on your forehead and see if there's a lot of tension there. That's where people get a lot of their wrinkles. If there's tension in your forehead, just let it go. Just like if you closed your fist real tight and then just let it go. It's easy to let go. Do that with the tension anywhere. So if you see, hear, or feel some tension in your forehead, just let it go like air out of a balloon. Now move your attention to the back of your neck. That's a place where there's a lot of tension. Now move it to your shoulders and your back, upper back, between your shoulders, right across from shoulder to shoulder on the back side of you. That's another place where there's a lot of stress. Now move your attention to your lower back, way down your lower back. Another place for a lot of tension. Just let it go. Now move it down your left leg all the way to your toes. Relax all the tension along the way. Move your attention to the other leg, all the way down to your toes. You can actually change the temperature of your feet by doing this. If you're one of these common people who have cold feet, so they even wear wool socks when they go to bed, you can practice putting your consciousness right down into your feet. And after a few times of practicing this, you won't have cold feet anymore. So there's a practical value to some of this. Now move your attention to your sacral chakra, way down at the base of your spine, the root chakra. We won't hold it there long, but see if you can feel a kind of tickling. Now move it up to your gut area. This is the second chakra of the major chakras. Now move your attention to your solar plexus area, the area of your adrenal gland, your kidneys, and your adrenal gland. Edgar Casey, well-known psychic, probably one of the best that there ever was in America, was a solar plexus psychic. That's the third chakra. Now move it up to your heart center. And the gland there is a thymus gland that has to do with immunity, your immune system. Now move it up to your throat. This is the thyroid chakra, the sixth one. I think miscounted. You must have caught that. The heart center is the fourth, not the fifth. The thyroid, your throat center, is the fifth. Sorry about that. Now move your consciousness up to that portion of your head just behind your eyes, at the upper part of your nose. Go right back there a little ways and put your consciousness right there. That's your sixth chakra. And that's your pineal gland. Then move your consciousness to the crown of your head. And even though your pituitary is sort of deep down, it's not right up at the surface. The crown chakra is directly connected to the pituitary gland. Now, those are the major chakras, and when you get so that you can feel a tickle, you know that that's where it's happening. Because if your arm or your leg, let's say, goes to sleep, most psychics, well, some psychics at least, can see that you have an etheric leg sticking out off to the side, away from your physical leg. That's what that means, is that it's coming free of your body. And you will eventually want to do, as Steiner pointed out, do some lifting off. And I'm not talking about astral travel here. I'm just talking about lifting off of your body. So when you get it so that you can feel that tickle in those areas, then you're working with those chakras, and you will soon get so that if you're meditating, people who are watching you may see that you're reaching up and you're scratching like this, and they're wondering, what are you doing? So, well, I'm itching my nose, because you've lifted up out of your body a little way. Now, that's really important, because there are three things that produce a similar kind of experience: death, sleep, and meditation. That is, if you meditate in a really, really good way, as you get your body so still that your body is actually asleep, but you keep your consciousness awake. If somebody tried to, just lifted up your arm and then let go, it would just plop down. Because it's asleep. You will learn to put your body asleep, but keep your consciousness alive. And at some point, you may start using a Bajam mantra, where you make the sound of that stimulates that chakra, and you feel a tickle there. I mean, you don't always have to focus on the tickle, but that's a really good thing to learn. If you went into does that bookstore or Present Moments, that still exists? If you went into a place like Present Moments and you wanted to buy a set of bowls that if you made them ring, each one is designed to ring according to one of those 7 chakras. When you're in there wanting to buy a set, try it out. If you play the tone of a particular bowl, it should tickle at that spot. If it doesn't, then it wasn't manufactured correctly. The walls are too thick or too thin, or they're not even, they're uneven. But usually they'll be pretty good. You'll be able to feel them at every level, and you can use the bowls as an aid in your work with your chakras. The Bajam mantra, then you start with maybe the Aum, and then the Om, and then the Yam, and so on, all the way down, and then back up again. And I usually try to help people to learn to start with their heart center and make the sound of that center. They know that that's where it's being activated. Your heart center, that whole thymus region, is being activated, and then move your consciousness up to the next highest level, to your thyroid, and then back down to your heart, and then down to your adrenal gland, solar plexus region, and up around to your heart again. And then up through the sixth chakra, and then back to the heart. And then down to the second chakra, and around and back to the heart. And then up to the crown chakra, and then back to the heart. And that's where you want to stop. Well, do you feel that tickle somewhere? So those are some exercises that you'll probably want to develop, and you will want to maybe start out your meditation in a thoughtful way. That is, practice contemplation, contemplative meditation. Those of you who are part of certain religious institutions, maybe the Anglican or the Roman Catholic or whatever, probably didn't even want to call anything that happened, like hearing a voice, as channeling or anything that sounded non-Catholic, that sort of thing. So they give it a different word. They just call it circumlocution. And they talk about it as meditative prayer. So whatever terminology works for you, use that. Doesn't have to be the same as everybody else. No. Your Theosophical Society, the local society, you found out what some of their mission and purpose is, and it's very good. On a much grander scale, the Theosophical Society at large, and that would include the Twin Cities branch of it, you want to really focus on two of their mission aspects. One is universal brotherhood. They want to work at bringing about universal brotherhood. And then the other is focusing on truth. And when a master uses a phrase like, "and the truth shall make you free," that's a healthy form of Gnosticism. That's a healthy Gnostic. And it's often used by Theosophists or Anthroposophists. It's a way that a lot of people will start out after they have gone through the relaxation. Just put your body to sleep by getting rid of all the tension. Then you might focus on something that is of great interest to you, and contemplate on it. And then after you've done that, then in a sense, switch from a talking inside yourself meditation to a quiet meditation. No thought, no words at all. Just empty everything out of your mind. Some of you may have trouble with that one. It's more along the Hindu line. Mindful meditation is more along the Buddhist line. I prefer the more Buddhist one, but I see a great value to the silent one as well. So you may want to learn to practice both of those. You're going to really want to be able to do this more and more, because these are really trying times. You probably read in the invitation that went out, but not everybody got it, and some people were invited by their friends. So I'll just repeat that, because I think it's important here that I don't see the Theosophical major goal to bring about Universal Brotherhood as a pipe dream. It's a very practical and realistic dream, and I'll try to demonstrate or prove that, if you could use the word prove in this sense. And you might be then wondering about how your own personal spiritual development can contribute to that larger goal. You may be asking that question to yourself or to small groups of friends, but you'll be concerned because it's really important that whatever you do, you get over fatalism, and you learn to appreciate the fact that you as an individual can make a big difference in the world. And the masters say that over and over again, that don't ever consider yourself too little of a thing. Oh, what difference could I make in what's happening in the world? You can make a difference. And if you're familiar with Edgar Cayce and his readings, you know that if even a small group of people, he even gave a number, and it was not a large number, of people would have been able to really meditate well and learn from that what they can learn from the spiritual world, there would not have been a Second World War. Just think of that. And then you think of what's going on in the world today and how you could make a difference. Your friends and acquaintances may say that given human nature the way it is, Universal Brotherhood is totally unrealistic. The best we can expect, they say, is a sprinkling of what they call Michaelic communities. I say Michael because over the whole world, except here in America, they pronounce it as Michael. Here we say Michael. But if you're speaking to people from other countries, it's Michael. So they wanted to create little Michaelic communities here and there as scattered oases in a vast desert of selfishness and greed. We will counter that pessimistic view with a deeper understanding of theosophy and anthroposophy. I put the two together because Rudolf Steiner was a friend and had mutual respect with Annie Besant years then after Madame Blavatsky had died. Annie Besant became kind of the top leader of theosophy, and they moved the center for theosophy to India, and a lot of people in the whole of Europe, especially the Germanic-speaking countries, Switzerland, Austria, and so on, wanted to continue in a line that seemed more fitting to them than what was coming out of India. They appreciated what's happening in India, but the way we grow up in the two parts of the world is so very different. If you're familiar with Carl Jung's psychology, he, you recall, said that it's not appropriate for Westerners who are born and raised here to just start practicing what they practice in India. Because in India, at least it used to be, although it's becoming so westernized that it's sort of losing its old form of spirituality. But the way it was, at least at the time of Carl Jung, was that you didn't really develop much of an ego growing up until you were about 21. And so you wanted somebody to be your kind of alter ego. You wanted to find somebody really good that you could trust, a well-known, let's say, guru, and have that guru be your master, and really do the job for you. What you in the West, your ego should start doing for itself after your parents have raised you to the point where they stop really dictating your life, but trying to encourage you and support you and recommend certain directions and so on, but leaving the choices to you. So in America then, or the whole of the Western world, you want to find a way to deal with this ego that's getting too strong. And there will be a few people who develop too weak of an ego. And they're the ones that you have to decide everything for them. What should we do tonight? She says to her husband. Well, I don't know. Why don't you tell me what you'd like to do? Well, I want to do what you want to do. What is it you want to do? Well, I want to do what you want to do. Here you have two undeveloped egos married. What a sad sight. Yeah. And so, but on the other hand, you have some people developing a really strong ego, and they become very narcissistic and very controlling over others. You should do what I say because I know best, kind of thing. And so the middle range there of ego strength then is necessary for us to develop our ego as we're growing up, but not let it get too strong or remain too weak. So parents are encouraged to offer their young children a choice, but not a wide open choice. What do you want for breakfast? No. Do you want Cheerios or eggs, or do you want toast, or you want whatever? Give them a choice of 2 or 3 things, and they'll feel like they're making a choice. And you're letting them make a choice, but you're helping it to stay confined enough so it just doesn't become anything goes. So we want to become deeply aware of humanity's development along with your own. You may be ahead of humanity, or you may be behind. We like to help the people who are behind. We kind of reach out with a shepherd hook and help the ones who are really struggling with first grade or second grade or whatever, and help them to kind of get caught up to where the rest of us are. We aren't very good at helping the ones who are ahead of that, who are the brightest ones in the class, who are the most capable already at that age. We in fact almost reach out that shepherd hook and grab them around the neck and hold them back. And you may have some children or nephews or nieces, grandchildren that are experiencing that. We had a organization in Fargo-Moorhead where we worked with really bright kids that were selected by the teachers, and they would invite in great names of science and other fields to come and speak. And here these guys come in and hear all of these little kids sitting out there at the desk, and they think I'm supposed to speak about physics. And so they dumb it way down. And then the kids start asking questions that go way over that. And these physicists are starting to talk like they're talking to other physicists. So there's that difference in human development at where we are. You know from history that Socrates gave his disciples a farewell address before he was soon to die. And likewise with Jesus of Nazareth. He gave his farewell address to his disciples, and he told them that there would be tribulation and wars and rumors of wars. He did not paint a rosy picture, but he added, nevertheless, be of good cheer. And you want to remember this, what he said. Okay, our problems are much different, but we have lots of troubles and tribulations and wars and rumors of wars. How do we keep from being ridden with fear? How do we be of good cheer? And if you are of good cheer, some people will think that you just don't know anything of what's going on. So you want to be thoughtful and informed. And people ought to be aware that you are thoughtful and informed about what's going on in the world around you, but not filled with fear. That's the key. Not filled with fear. And if you're not filled with fear, that's the way a lot of children are. They're not worried about whether Russia's going to start a war or China's going to start a war. They don't think about those things. They're playing and running and jumping and laughing and having lots of fun as little children do. When they're not filled with fear, they are cheerful, and that's the way we would also be as adults. We are living in a time then when our whole society, indeed the whole of Western civilization, is steeped in materialism. Really is. Christmas even is a materialistic event. You know, what's the big deal about Christmas? Some of the people in your extended relatives who own a big store or whatever will say, well, that's where we make the most money, is we get people to buy things, and you feel obligated. Who you know, who are you going to give this to and that to and that to, and get presents for everybody. So they're selling things like crazy during the Christmas season. It's a money-making time for a lot of people. Once I tried in a group of relatives to say, well, how about if we read from the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Matthew as a part of the Christmas event? Boy, there was a lot of uneasiness in the group, but out of politeness, they allowed my sister to do it. But they really were in a hurry for her to get done. Can we open the presents now? We're steeped in materialism. Most people have lost any deep understanding of their dual nature and are simply trying to make the best of their ordinary mortal self, which is oblivious of their diva-like nature. So you know from your studies in Theosophy or Anthroposophy that you have a higher nature which is diva-like. Now, a diva is a spiritual being that does not have a physical body. Maybe they have components of themselves that go down as far as the etheric body. There are lots of those, but not the physical. But we have a physical body for a purpose. But we also have this nature that is a part of ours. And we experience that. It's not something, you know, if you talk to people who are just out and out materialists and they couldn't go, well, I'm a scientist, I don't believe in any of that rubbish. They go there every night in their sleep, but when they wake up, they won't recall any of it, except they may have some feelings from what they experienced there, but no cognitive memory. They're blocking that. When you meditate so deeply that your body is asleep, then you are also in the realm of those who are on the other side already. Your older relatives, the people, your old friends that are dead now, they're only dead to us. They're very much alive on the other side. In fact, they have a more vivid consciousness than we do, except that they can't do what we can do in the body. And they get to learn that, why they need to come into incarnation and have a physical body. Because if they just stayed there, they would remain puppets of the spiritual beings, just like a Pinocchio. Them telling, you know, you're just running your life. That only happens some months before you're born and for a couple of years after, maybe even 3 years, till the time that that child starts having a real sense of self, of ego. It's not just there because it's kind of implanted by all the people around, calling that person by a name and so on, and this is yours, and this is Billy's, and this is James, to learn that kind of differences in selves. That happens maybe at 3. You could probably recall with your own children when that started. When that happens, this deviant nature of us that tweaks the brain so that it is all the cells in there are lined up in a way that would give you the capacities to do what you're created to do in this lifetime. And then if they kept doing that, then after 3, or 3-ish, I should say, it isn't exactly 3, then you would become too much of a Pinocchio, too much of in need of a puppeteer to run your life. Now, there are some adults who are in the New Age movement, and there's a lot of good in the New Age movement. I'm not knocking that so much, except that it's kind of sad for me to see that they're sort of like Pinocchio. They get up in the morning and they can't get dressed till their guides tell them what to wear. Their guides are running their life, and you have to get to a point where like Judy Boss, who was born and raised here in the Twin Cities, was a very good psychic. She wrote this book called In Silence They Return. She spoke sometimes to our summer conferences, week-long conferences. She explained how, because she had a family, young kids, and a job, she needed her sleep. And these guides would keep asking her because they don't have to sleep. And she'd just say, bug off, you know, I'll meet you again in the morning. Oh, but I've got to get my sleep. And she does this, you know, with a humor, but also with a forceful will. And they respected that. So they would back off and leave her alone so she could sleep during the night. You have to learn that kind of thing. And then the other thing about fatalism is you still find people who are living their life like that song. I don't have the pronunciation correctly, but you'll recognize it. I always thought it was like c'est la vie, whatever will be shall be. Yeah, que sera, whatever will be, will be. Well, somebody has this happen. Well, that's the way it's meant to be. Well, some things are meant to be because of karma. But because of your studies of theosophy and anthroposophy, you should become the most informed person in your town about karma and reincarnation. That should be one of the main things that you study. And we need to help people to really come to an understanding of karma and reincarnation in this time. They still, if they don't do it before they die, they'll have to work on it next time. But it's like being a kid who kept being held back in the 4th grade. And now his or her, all their peer group are in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade because you've just been kept behind. You don't want to be kept behind. You want to develop appropriately for the time that we're in. And so an understanding of karma and reincarnation might be a subject that study groups pick up and really work with that. So you learn then that your dual nature, your higher nature, is a diva nature, a diva-like nature, because it's going to be a diva that has a physical body. And that physical body is not what you're here to develop, but you want to develop for why it's here. It's here to help serve you in doing what you know you should do and what you think is best to do. You want to have the physical capacity to do it, and you want to have the strength to do it. Now, when Theosophists or Masons or other groups talk about knowledge, they're talking about higher knowledge, like you study all the time, and they talk about strength. They're not talking about lifting barbells. They're talking about strength of character. If you know that you should get out and walk across the bridge, demanding that we stop that war in Vietnam or wherever, like the college students used to do, that takes a lot of courage. And you'll find a lot of your friends say, I know that what they're doing is the right thing. I wish I dared to do it. They don't have the strength to do it. So you want that strength, as well as the higher knowledge, to utilize what you know in the best way that you know is possible. So we have this higher nature, but in our culture, you're raised at the University of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, anywhere you would go, almost every university, if you went into psychology or the social sciences, would likely not have a single faculty member in your department that even talks about or thinks about or wants to think about spirituality. And if you came in with a proposal to do a dissertation, and you're a faculty advisor in graduate school heard what you had, and it was a spiritual one, they would put a kibosh on it. They needed to either run you out of the department or get you to change your mind and do something sensible. You know, you could do something sensible, like finding out whether women tend to open doors differently than men. Oh, that'd be a great study. Do women put the toilet paper on with the paper coming over the top or around the bottom? Now, mostly they put it down the bottom and the men put it over the top, mostly on average. But somebody had to study that. And that was favored by the university. And the person got an advanced degree, doing something that wasn't spiritual. But now, the interesting thing is that someone who is a really, really good seer, as well as a high-level initiate, like Rudolf Steiner, could see that it's a paradox. It just bothered him when he looked out at the people in society, and that would have been for him most of Central Europe. He saw that deep, deep down in their psyche, not conscious at all, was a longing to it reconnected with the spiritual, which they left then when they were born. But because of how they're raised, they don't want to have anything to do with that. And you know, your friend brought maybe a 7-year-old girl along shopping in a grocery store. They're standing in line, and the little girl says, "Mommy, look at the funny colors around that man." Shh! Don't say that. You know, don't ever say that again. Or the little boy who's with his parents in church at a funeral. And the little boy says, "Grandpa's here." Don't say that out loud. People will think you're crazy. You try to develop your spiritual interests, and a lot of the people that knew you won't like the way you're changing. And they'll become a real drag on your change. That may even be your spouse. I married you the way you were. I don't want you to become so different. You used to eat pork and beef. Now you want vegetarian food, you know, that sort of thing. So it might start out simple things like that. But I remember my wife, I was married to her for 27 years, very good wife, very good mother. But she said, "Why don't you just run rats like the other psychologists do?" Now, we have climate change, we have loss of biodiversity, gun violence, that beyond anything you imagine. Our kids are afraid to go to school. Hate crimes, racism, etc., etc. With all this, there is much fear and anxiety. And psychologists would say anxiety is so intense that you can almost cut it with a knife. So we're surrounded by people, not just the scientists. I'm not knocking all scientists. Some really top-notch scientists are very spiritual. But as a rule, at a convention, I went to a national convention of psychologists. There was a big sign up. Human beings need God human beings need God like a fish needs a bicycle. I was there at it, and they weren't afraid to just say it. So we're surrounded with people like that, but we're also surrounded with gloom and doom people who are just all the time predicting the terrible outcome we're coming to. And you even have some doom and gloom people, doom people, but not gloom. They're happy about it. These are certain evangelical Christians who want Armageddon to happen because they believe that will bring God in charge of the whole world again. It's amazing that happens, but it does. And then you have the sugar and spice and everything nice people. Oh my, about all you can do is smile. Either they are just really ignorant or they don't care. I remember a poem, part of it, the beginning of it, first line of it, when I was in college. Someone had written a poem that started out, "See the happy moron, he doesn't give a damn." Now, my aim then is to encourage people to be thoughtful and informed, but not filled with fear. There's a verse by Rudolf Steiner that's really appropriate for our times. It's not too long, it's widely spaced. He wrote, "We must eradicate from the soul." Now, anthroposophists would really appreciate something that comes from Rudolf Steiner. And many Theosophists would also, because Steiner was the head of the Theosophical Society in Germany for many years. So you're hearing, or say, but Blavatsky was saying, we must eradicate from the soul all fear and terror of what comes towards us from out of the future. Maybe start practicing that tomorrow or tonight before you go to bed. And we must acquire serenity in all feelings and sensations about the future. We must look forward with complete equanimity to everything that may come. And we must think only that whatever comes is given to us by a world directive full of wisdom. It is part of what we must learn in this age, namely to live out of pure trust without any security in existence. Trust in the ever-present help of the spiritual world. Truly, nothing else will do. How much money you have in the bank, how important some of the people you know are, presidents of companies and so on, that won't help at all when push comes to shove. If our courage is not to fail us, we must trust in the ever-present help of the spiritual world. And we must seek this awakening within ourselves. One of the most profound questions that Albert Einstein had wasn't about what is the connection between space and time and that sort of thing, although he thought that was important. But the really, really important thing for him was, is the universe friendly? Think about that. Is the universe friendly? Whatever you hear, whether it's from Theosophy or Anthroposophy or something else, use the letter that the disciple James, who was the brother of Jesus, wrote, and you find it in your Bible, where he said, "Be not hearers only, but be doers." And this is what Steiner always means when he says, yeah, read it, study it, that's great, but don't just leave it in the abstract. Don't just, so it doesn't make any difference in your life. It's got to make it an existential difference in your life. Theosophy or Anthroposophy would be the biggest life-transforming, thing you'd have if you really put it to practice. So what you should do, I should think, is to study, read, study, and then meditate on what you have studied. Now, this would take contemplative type of meditation, and then apply it. Do the best that you can with the best that you know, and nobody else, not even God, will ask anything more than that of you at the moment. The spiritual world would, of course, expect you to grow beyond that, so you don't stay a fourth grader all your life. But as a fourth grader, they want you to act like a fourth grader. Be putting it to practice in your life. And one of the things this will do is to keep you from becoming passive. See, there were a lot of good things that scholars would say about something like even Marx's stuff on communism. his interpretation of capitalism and stuff all made sense to intellectual people. But what was so wrong with Marx was that he gave people the attitude that time will take its course and it will act like a pendulum swinging back and forth into dialectic materialism. So you have a synthesis and then an antithesis, and that creates another synthesis, and this keeps moving in time. And so that will take care of it. It'll just take care of it. You don't have to do anything in particular. It'll just take care of itself. Just be patient and wait, and it'll happen. And it's like what Steiner said about Freud. His own ideas were very similar to Freud in many ways, but what he said about Freud that he did not like at all was that Freud was a complete determinist in his psychoanalysis, that it didn't allow for human freedom at all. And that's something that Steiner felt was dangerous to a culture. So don't become passive. Study, meditate, and apply. Now, it helps to remind ourselves, this is really a yeah, it's a card that, but we'll
Getting worse?
no. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. It helps to remind ourselves not only of our higher nature, but also the helping, capital H on helping forces that can shape ourselves and the world we live in. Sometimes we focus on all the negative things, the powerful negative forces, and especially with your background in theosophy or anthroposophy, you know all about Ahriman and Lucifer. Well, Ahriman is the spirit of spiritual darkness, and he seems to have a lot going for him. And you know, how are we gonna deal with this? So shift your attention, not necessarily away from those, so you pretend that you don't even know anything about those things anymore, but don't dwell on them. Focus and dwell on the kinds of forces that are really alive and active and helping, at least offering help to you. Now, they will not override your freedom. You've been given that freedom by higher beings than they are even. And so, and they are much higher than you'd imagine. They will help you, but they won't do it for you. Know about bodhisattvas. Now, there are many people that are referred to as a bodhisattva if they're really kind of outstanding, but those are kind of minor bodhisattvas. The major bodhisattvas are 12, and they serve the 12 Elohim that are involved with guiding humanity through all the ages and cycles of the future and past. The last main bodhisattva was the Gautama Buddha, who then in his last incarnation becomes a Buddha. And then he won't be back again working on this plane of existence, maybe indirectly through his teachings of the Buddha, which are very good, but not here like he was. He passed the torch, so to speak, on to the next one to be the Buddha 5,000 years later. So for 5,000 years, this being incarnates real often, maybe once every 100 years or so. And this present one then, that has about 2,500 years to go as a bodhisattva, is the Maitreya. And I would guess that many of you have heard of the Maitreya. And as we move into the future, this Maitreya Bodhisattva will be a really, really great teacher. His teaching will be so powerful that when you hear it, it will be like a tornado. It'll be like an earthquake. It'll be like a wild flood. It'll just forceful. It'll just raise the dead almost. He will be that forceful in his teaching, and they will all be a very high level teaching. And his name is the Maitreya Bodhisattva. Maitreya spelled Maitreya, Maitreya. Then there are avatars. You probably knew of one, and he was around during your lifetime, and maybe will be again. His name was Sasha Sai Baba. Maybe somebody of you went to India and spent some time in his ashram. Sasha Sai Baba. He lived during our lifetime. And there will be other avatars. And then there's Michael in his role as Zeitgeist, spirit of the times. And he will give us immense help. And then the mighty ones of old, reborn. The really, really great beings of the past history, as far back as you could trace it. They will be reborn. Many in our lifetime or our children's lifetime. Then Vidar, V-I-D-A-R, very familiar to people with Scandinavian mythology background. Vidar is a being that you're starting to hear about, and he's starting to make a difference. But he will make a big difference in the future, because Michael, who is pictured as in this icon of Michael and the dragon. Michael will kind of hold his foot on the neck of Ahriman. Ahriman's the spirit of darkness that brings about all of this spiritual darkness that we experience in our world. But he will continue to do that until we have learned to overcome materialism. Then that spirit of darkness won't be needed any longer and will be done in by Vidar. Michael will not kill Ahriman. Will hold him partly in check to keep us from just getting totally wiped out, but not to destroy Ahriman. Let him do his work of turning Christmas into a materialistic holiday or whatever, but not killing him off. Vidar will put an end to Ahriman.
I mean, isn't there the hope for redemption even for Ahriman?
Not for Ahriman, but for Lucifer. Ahrimanic beings, yes. Yeah.
Repeat the question?
Well, she says, well, isn't there hope for the redemption of Ahriman? There's a lot of people who believe that. A lot of anthroposophists believe it. But it's if they read enough science, they see that it's not Gael that will Ahriman in. It will be Vidar, V-I-D-A-R. Then there's a Great White Brotherhood. Now, this is an unfortunate terminology. Up until 20 years ago, maybe this was fine. Everybody had no problem. But after that, everybody thought, these are white guys, huh? The Great White Brotherhood. Well, white guys. No, they had nothing to do with their skin color. In fact, they didn't really have a skin so much. And there are female masters. So in talking with friends and acquaintances, if you can share anything with them at all, and you bring up, instead of calling it the Great White Brotherhood, which will cause them to say, oh, you're part of the gender biased group, say, you might call them the masters of the East, the spiritual masters of the East. They are funny. They like to play it. They're joyful, and when you see them, you can see why they often got called the Great White Brotherhood, because they're bones that look sort of like a stone, except it would be made out of gossamer material. You know what gossamer is? Yeah. It's, we would just find that humorous, that we'd see them, you know, being playful in these gossamer outfits. They told us that you need to get over fear. This group that I was a part of for a while till it finally disbanded, would meet often and sometimes put on an annual conference. And one year they were going to do a conference on evil. And the spiritual brothers, and there were 51 different brothers that spoke through Ray Stanford. And that could be analyzed scientifically because these were all recorded, and they can analyze the voice patterns, and they are not the same. 51 different ones. And they told the people, you can go ahead with this conference because that's your choice, and we won't interfere with your freedom. But we want to caution you about the risk here. And so they said one time the group of AUM members gathered together for a reading from Ray Stanford, and the brothers came through, and one of the brothers, his name was Lao Ming, he said, would one of you who is not afraid of evil step forward up here and imagine a circle out on the floor. And I want you to come, get a volunteer and come up to the circle. And somebody did. And then Ming said, now step 1 foot in the circle. And some people couldn't do that because he had said, you know, think of in the center of that circle is evil. And then he asked another person, and that person couldn't step in there either. Finally, a fellow, I did know him when I go down to Austin, Texas, where they gathered, stepped up to the circle, and then Lao Ming says, now step a foot in, and he did. What do you feel? And he said, nothing yet. And then we'll step in both feet. What do you feel? And he was sort of making him feel like people feel like, oh, geez, aren't you psychic? Can't you do this? You know, can't you read minds? Or whatever, you know, they, you know, and so you kind of pretend that you can do these things. Well, he got closer and closer to the center. And once he got to the center, Lao Ming said, now what do you feel? Not a thing. And Lao Ming said, ladies and gentlemen, in the center of that circle is an honest man. There was no evil there. Just a suggestion. But if you put on a conference on evil, you're going to put out a lot of suggestions. So be cautious. And then some of you have heard this one about Katumi. He said, Greetings, greetings. This is Kutumi. And then he went on to say that you won't believe me if I don't speak this way. If I spoke in a Texas accent, what would you believe? If I spoke in a Boston accent, what would you believe? But if I speak in a Himalayan India accent, you believe it straight from the horse's mouth. So he was telling them how gullible they are. Then you have Shambhala. Let me see if I'd like to be able to read that. I think they have this. Oh. Here it is. I want to read this because this is straight from the horse's mouth, not from me. Initiates have always spoken of a mysterious land which seemed to vanish out of human experience. This is the legendary land of Shambhala. Where is it now? It's out in the east. We go hunting for it. We never find it. How come? Where is it? It withdrew during Kali Yuga, which started, as you know, in 3101 BC and will go 10,000 years. But the first 5,000 years is the darkening and darkening and darkening more of spirituality, so that we just see physical stuff and not the spiritual. And if you have lost the ability to see the spiritual, at least the etheric, you won't see Shambhala. So he said it withdrew during Kali Yuga. Now that language makes it sound like it withdrew, but it's our consciousness that didn't see it anymore, which made it seem like it withdrew. For those who have received initiation, it has always been possible for them to find their way into it. They go there again and again in order to fetch from it the new streams and impulses for all that is to be given to humanity from century to century. Just think of that. It is the primal head which initiates drew strength and wisdom for their mission. Shambhala is spoken of as ancient fairyland, but it does exist, and it will come again into the perception of humanity when humanity, develop natural clairvoyance. You can also develop a trained clairvoyance, but there will be more and more natural clairvoyance, more and more young people that already have it. Among the first visions that human beings will have when Shambhala shows itself again will be the Christ in his etheric form. Humanity has no other leader to take it into the land of Shambhala than the Christ being. Not a trance, not in a trance, but in full consciousness. Human beings should enter this land under the guidance of that leader. For those who wish to understand, this must be described as a momentous event signifying the greatest turning point in the evolution of humanity. It will occur at the dawning of the new age of Abraham. Now that you might wonder and contemplate on that. What in the world is the new age of Abraham? Now, one hint might be that Abraham lived about 2000 BC. So if maybe it means that about 2000 AD or BCE, these beings will be present again. I'm not quite sure. All I've been given is that they'll be reborn, and they are great ones of old. They'd be like Solomon, for example. So it will occur at the dawning of the age of Abraham, and it will be the event through which human beings will understand to a higher degree the Christ impulse. Many things contained in the Gospels will become clearer and understandable in those persons who are able to gaze into Shambhala. So this is coming soon, and maybe has already started. This gives me hope. This is one of the things that I think, what's Ahriman going to do about this? And then Anthroposophia, she is a real being. Think of her like Isis. Think of her as a living being who helps us understand. And then, if you read in the book, if you want to get this book, the delightful book, Round Table to Grail Castle, is to Grail Castle. She was steeped in the teachings of Rudolf Steiner, and she said that Steiner he said a lot of things to close acquaintances and to his driver and so on that he never said in lectures. So they picked up a lot of things that are helpful to us. That there are new elemental beings that weren't here in the past that will help us to take what we study in Theosophy and Anthroposophy and contemplate on it and bring it right in to the very fiber of our being. That's incredible. That this stuff you're studying, you think, oh man, I've been reading this stuff for so many years, and there's still more to go. He gave 6,000 lectures. How am I going to do all this? And the little I do know, I've forgotten already. But it's going to be these elemental beings that will work that right down into the fiber of your being. Then there's Waldorf education. What an incredible thing that can happen. Listen to this. This isn't too long. You have some kids who come home from school, 4th grade, whatever, 5th grade, 6th grade. What do you learn in school today? Nothing. They don't see anything of value in school. It doesn't help them in their street activities. But your neighbor sent the kids to a Waldorf school. And the kids come home from school and the parents ask, well, what did you learn in school today? Well, I learned to wonder at beauty, stand guard over truth, to look up to the noble and resolve on the good. This leads us truly to purpose in living, to right in our doing, to peace in our feeling, to light in our thinking, and teaches us trust in the working of God in all that there is, in the widths of the world and in the depths of the soul. They're kind of stunned for a while. And then you think, oh, is that all you learned today? But to your friend, you say, geez, I wish there was a Waldorf school for adults. This is big. Just think if more and more kids get educated this way. This gives me lots of hope for the future. Then there are seed persons like Dane Rudyard or Margaret Mead or Ruth Benedict or Eleanor Roosevelt. Some really seed persons for humanity. And then there are peak experiences. If you've studied any of Abraham Maslow, you know his research on peak experiences is just incredible. Yeah, you think, wow, and a lot of people are having peak experiences. This gives me hope. And then dreams. your dreams start to change, and they're not just the ordinary dreams about what you ate for supper. They are changing in a direction that's leading you towards re-experiencing the spiritual world, the world that you left before you were born. Inspiring poems, films, books, and persons. You must all know some persons that are inspiring, or that you were inspired by, maybe one teacher that you had when you grew up. Even some movies you come out feeling, geez. I went to Dances with Wolves many years ago with three Waldorf people, or at least anthroposophists. There were four of us, and we went to a cafe after the movie, and there was not a word spoken for, I thought, 40 minutes. Just almost makes you cry. And then you know that there's an inherent bias toward fairness, goodness, truth, and beauty in people. Even little kids. That wasn't fair. You know, they have a sense that this wasn't fair. And then there are teams of angel helpers. Those of you who were raised Anglican or Roman Catholic know about guardian angels. Some of the rest of you do also. But if you've been studying anthroposophy and theosophy, you know that there are guardian angels. There is an angel being who has been assigned to you. And that angel carries your archetypal blueprint for this lifetime so that you don't lose it completely. Even if you're not knowing anything about it, it's still there for you. So we know about the work of guardian angels, but I didn't know about teams of angels. Listen to this. This was a revelation. We wish you to know that we work both individually as angels and in teams with you. It is at the same level where we may engage you in repairing any part of you in need of tender, loving care. Think of that. Teams of angels who are engaged in repairing any part of you in need of tender, loving care. This is true for any physical disorder that you carry. It is true for any heartache or pain that it is also true for any residual pain you carry from any physical, emotional, or psychological wound that you may have had in your life. It is what ails you. We wish you to know that it is what ails you that determines how well you may express your pure being if you were free of it. The angels are given to help you heal, to help you recover, and to help you attain the pure expression of your soul. Just as you would have a team of fiddles or for whatever, but you might have a lead surgeon, you might have supporting surgeons, you might have trained and experienced nurses. The entire spectrum of what you would encounter is formulated into a team. And that's the way the angels have done it. They're working together like that in concert to help you, a whole team. And the awareness of this will allow you to accomplish a step in your evolution. The configuration of these teams are in exact relationship to the current composition of your consciousness. So if your consciousness is totally wrapped up in everyday things, totally involved with the mortal, ordinary stuff, your car's got to start in the morning, you got to make sure that tires are okay. you have to pick up the kids after school. Your whole day is filled with this. And you've lost, spending quality time really contemplating and experiencing the spiritual world. So it's a current composition of your consciousness that determines how this team works with you. And the current composition of your physical body also, of your awareness and your soul nature. Great care is given you in this configuration of the angels around you. Just like that, a good hospital would not give you a kind of a crummy surgeon because he or she was the only one that's not on vacation to do heart surgery on you or a heart transplant. They'll give you the best that they have. And this is the way it is with the angels. Great care is given in the configuration of the angels that surround you. We wish you to know that you may rely upon the divine expertise of this team. Think about that. Contemplate that before you go to sleep tonight. Realize that whatever limitations of consciousness you currently carry, reality is infinite. God is infinite. Our abilities as angels are infinite. We withhold nothing from you. Your Creator withholds nothing from you in your role of true creation as a being of love and of light and of compassion, of caring and of devotion to what you have come upon the earth to express. That you've come here for that purpose. Now, I know you're going to think, well, I don't think they're all real. And maybe, so let's just say, in my judgment, maybe not yours, there are some Waldorf teachers that are barely well trained. But the school needs a teacher for that grade by fall, and it's already June. So they hire what they can get. But a real good Waldorf teacher knows that this stands behind and within each and every one of the children that he or she has. They can sense it. We are completely outside of beyond your ideas of limitation of any kind. We are not limited by time or space or place or amount. But this is a revelation that should make a difference in people's lives. A team of angel helpers. Did you know that before? I mean, that's a rhetorical question. You don't have to say you did. And then there's inner restlessness. You have restless legs. I'm sure most of us do. Oh man, it's hard to get to sleep, and the legs just want to keep moving. And it's not cramps. So we get up and take calcium and magnesium and zinc before we go to bed, and that really helps. So there's an inner restlessness that way. But there's an inner soul restlessness that makes you uncomfortable, discontent with life. You might be a very well functioning vice president of a great company, and now you're 52, and you give up all that you have and move to some wilderness in Montana, or go up to the boundary waters and spend time up there. As one student told me, she was a junior, she said, I'm not going to be at school next semester. I don't know how long I'll be gone. I'm going up to the boundary waters and I'm going to stay there till I get all my shit together. And that's Christianity. There's Peter Christianity and Pauline Christianity and Johnny Christianity. Peter Christianity is, that's the people who want to try their best to get you to come to the church. Because the church will bring you to heaven. The church is trying to replace the old mysteries. And so they fool people into thinking that if you do this and this and this and this, we'll get you to heaven. And so people do that till they give up on it. And that form of Christianity is petering out and will peter out. I didn't mean to. I didn't think of it until after I said it. Then there's Pauline Christianity. These are the ones that want to bring you to the Bible. Bring you to the Bible. Get you to read and study the Bible. Have Bible study of all sorts, and then you'll be all right. See, you learned in Sunday school. Jesus loves me, this I know, because the Bible tells me so. Carl Jung said, Jesus, the Christ, loves me, this I know, because my experience tells me so. I wouldn't believe it if the Bible told me. Then you could say, well, the Quran could tell the Muslims, and you don't think they're getting the truth. Well, they probably are. But this is something, some inner experience, real, genuine experience Jung thought was capable of people. He believed that it isn't like Immanuel Kant taught. Kant was read by just about everybody in Europe and studied. And he taught people that you can't know what's behind the appearances in the world. You can only know how things appear. What's behind the appearance, this is phenomena. What's behind it, whatever it is numinous. And we aren't capable of numinous experiences. Well, Carl Jung said that's not true. I work with many clients who are having numinous experiences. And it may be the case that you are also, or someone you know is having numinous experiences. Then Johnny in Christianity is love one another. Not just your relatives, not just your brothers and sisters or your parents or your children, but your neighbors, strangers, and even your enemies. Love everyone. And see, Buddhism coming along and teaching people compassion, and it goes hand in hand with the Christianity teaching this love, and they work together. So you have love and compassion. This is a kind of Christianity that's coming, and there are always pioneers. So you may know somebody who's already well on their way to being a Johnnian Christian, but more and more people will be so in the future, and this gives me hope. And then the greatest help of all is the cosmic logos. Those of you who have studied, your theosophy or anthroposophy know about the cosmic logos. That's the word, capital W, not the Bible, but the word, capital W, that became flesh and dwelt amongst us. That's the cosmic word. That is so important that you could not possibly say what needs to be said about it in one session, or even in a session as a part of other things, here or any place else. It requires at least a whole session devoted to itself. Now, what's going to read something, it's 2 pages long, that I think is very good, but I don't know if your buns can take it. You can get up and leave if you want. Why don't I do that? I think it's really important, and it shows me that, we don't need to be pessimistic about the, dream and the ideal of theosophy. There is going to be a universal brotherhood, including every single person, no matter what color they are, what background they have, that chooses to be so. It won't be forced on them. They can refuse it. And then at the end of the ages upon ages, when this, as the master put it, this heaven, that's the etheric realm right next to the physical, when this heaven and this earth pass away, that'll be when we move into the next phase of human evolution, where we will be not in physical material form, but our physical form will be like the physicists speak of energy, and it will be something that
Spiders.
that can't be seen by people who are materialists, but will be seen by everyone else. Here's a revelation, and I think these spiritual revelations are just essential to know about. Humanity now comes to this crucial time when divine wisdom shall flow like a river, when every living soul that abides upon the earth shall desire the knowledge, capital K, the higher knowledge, that comes from on high. I, Hermes, will be pouring love and wisdom into the understanding of human beings who are receptive to it. The teaching of light has been gradually released into the lower octaves of earth, have contributed to all the good things that have advanced life upon the planet. Wisdom is like a lit lamp, which when placed on a stand, giveth light to all in the room. Wisdom is a divine attribute which shall unfold as a rose, and from this moment on, each petal shall gradually open in a gentle way that will lend to beauty and maturity within human souls. We are inaugurating new schools of universal wisdom and expanding our energies for the input of the teachings. The great light that once was only to be found in the secret rooms and secret orders of the holy mysteries shall now be shouted from the housetops. Persons who seek will come to understand the divine philosophies and the majestic principles that will lead them to a higher knowledge of their inner being and their divine self. Seek knowledge, seek wisdom. It is more to be sought than gold or silver, more to be valued than precious jewels. The ancient teachings have progressed down through the centuries with continuing releases of light through chosen ones. But this has been as the pace of a snail in comparison to that which is to come just shortly ahead of us. In these days and the years ahead, the higher principles will be incorporated into every walk of life, into education and business, into government and industry, into science and medicine. And as the earth steps forth into a new era of revelation and understanding, it is a paradox that the grip of confusion has been such that the darkness has been taken away from enlightenment, and the way of light and self-understanding has been relegated to a spiritual darkness understanding, such that we just materialism understand. Such is the confusion that has reigned for centuries. In the new order of things, your teachers will not be on only fine robes and upon the rostrums of academia, but your great teachers will be also found in every walk of life, in humble pathways, in small groups of seekers, in the byways and quiet places of life. My energies shall project wisdom to all those hearts and minds who are open to an affinity with universal mind. Humble, unschooled souls shall drink from the fountain of heavenly wisdom and drink from it fully. You are now in the time that will separate the false from the true. Look not so much to the credentials of the learned and the experts and the authorities of those who rule over them, but seek rather the flow of wisdom and truth wherever it may be found, within or without. The day of the division of the priesthood and the laity is over forever. Wash downstream in the pulsating, rising flood of awareness and the vibrations of a new dispensation. Look not to the exalting of men who would rule over that which God shall reveal to you in the secret place of the Most High within you. Rather, follow after truth as it is given to you by your divine self within. That's your devic nature. Find the great freedom to receive, the freedom to learn, the freedom to know, the freedom to understand, the freedom to absorb, to enjoy the heavenly breezes of divine truth blowing through the open doors of your mind. The relentless flow of universal wisdom by my impetus shall come to all who would receive it. So, what should you do? Release all personal desires for notoriety and gain, and yield yourselves as dedicated servers to the betterment of humanity. Thousands of untrodden paths of investigation are waiting for dedicated humanitarian souls in all fields of endeavor. Are untold answers to be given for the problems that plague humanity when your inner creativity blends with spiritual intuition to fire the imagination and inspire assistance from higher realms. For in the final analysis, all discovery lies within universal mind. Meditate at great length and seek the inspired thought and the whispered dedication and direction that comes from the voice of divinity within. Here lies the navigation of uncharted seas of SEAS, of revelation, uncharted seas, awaiting those who dare to pit themselves along with the great ones of old and of higher worlds, who stand ready to cooperate in ventures into the unknown, to push back the horizons of their conceived possibilities and practice open-mindedness toward spiritual inflow of ideas born of spiritual wisdom. So let the light, the divine light, shine within your mental activities. For within the mind of God, all things are born and brought into manifestation. Muse upon the problems in the silence of the secret place of the Most High, and in quietness and confidence await the inspiration and solutions that will come. Do not fear to separate yourself from those who do not choose to walk with wisdom and love. Leave them behind if necessary in their whitewashed sepulchres filled with dead bones. Turn your face toward the flesh, turn your face toward the fresh blessing of personal revelation. I will lead you and bring you new friends, kindred souls in the brotherhood of wisdom and love. This transition also brings its time of unpleasantness, with difficult physical disturbances and environmental adjustments. But throughout any personal struggles, you will have a kind of guidance you will have never experienced before, because you have pursued the path of wisdom and love. As the planet ascends to higher vibrations of light, those of you who have occupied your thinking with the great philosophies and spiritual principles will raise your consciousness into those higher octaves of growth and spiritual blessing. Our words are designed to give courage to those who hear. Fear not the changes that come, for they bring with them spiritual knowledge and wisdom, deep and broad understanding that was till now undreamt of in the mind of humanity. Signed by Hermes and Melchior. Melchior was one of the three wise men who came from the east that you sing about at Christmas time. Casper and Balthazar are the other two. The highest person that ever developed an ego and all the bodies, etheric, astral, and physical, that the ego can develop was Zarathustra. And Zarathustra, sometimes called Zoroaster, sent his two highest initiates to Egypt and to Egypt, both. One was Hermes and all the Hermetic wisdom that the Greeks were so enamored with, comes from Hermes, and then Moses. They were these two initiates. And then so one of the high disciples of Zarathustra makes his way with two others to Bethlehem to see the birth of their teacher, their master. Because that master then brings about the full integration of the astral, the etheric, and physical body of Jesus of Nazareth, until Jesus is at age 30 and baptized in the River Jordan. And that Zarathustra ego leaves voluntarily, so that this being that's referred to as the Christ being then can come down and be the higher ego within Jesus of Nazareth. So that's where the Hermes and Melchior come from. So continue to study theosophy and anthroposophy, but don't limit your reading just to that. And be sure to warm your thoughts with a loving heart. So who wouldn't be a good chair?
Thank you so much, James. Wow, that was extraordinary. Thank you.